The rain battered against the glass doors of the Oak Creek Apartments lobby, a relentless rhythm that matched the pounding in Sarah's chest. She stood by the reception desk, her hands gripping a clipboard so tightly her knuckles had turned white. In front of her stood Mr. Sterling, the regional manager for Apex Corporation, a man who smelled of expensive cologne and indifference. He didn't look at the leaking ceiling bucket Sarah had carefully positioned. He only looked at the screen of his tablet, scrolling through numbers that represented human lives. "It is a simple liability calculation, Sarah," Sterling said, his voice smooth and cold. "This building is old. The insurance premiums are skyrocketing. Apex policy for properties of this size requires a resident management team. A couple. One partner handles the administrative duties and cleaning. The other handles certified heavy maintenance and overnight security." He finally looked up, his eyes scanning Sarah with a dismissive assessment. "A single mother running a 40-unit building? It is a lawsuit waiting to happen. You can't fix a boiler at 2 in the morning and watch a 7-year-old child at the same time." Sarah felt a lump of hot coal in her throat. "I have done exactly that for 6 years, Mr. Sterling," she replied, her voice trembling but firm. "I fixed the roof leak during the storm of 2019. I repainted the 3rd floor alone. My daughter Mia is never neglected. This building is our home." Sterling let out a short, bored sigh. "And we appreciate your past service, but the policy is mandatory. On your renewal application, you checked the box for domestic partner assisting. I am assuming this partner exists and is ready to be added to the payroll and the lease? Because if he is not here to sign the contract and show his certifications during the corporate inspection in 48 hours, well, we will have to vacate the unit for a qualified team." He checked his gold watch. 48 hours, Sarah. Have him here with a marriage license or a notarized domestic partnership certificate, or have your boxes packed. Good day." Sterling walked out into the rain, leaving the automatic doors hissing open. The cold wind rushed in, chilling Sarah to the bone. She stood there, paralyzed. There was no partner. There was no he. She had checked that box in a moment of panic weeks ago, terrified that the new owners would fire her for being a single mom. Now, that little check mark was a grenade that had just pulled its own pin. Sarah walked slowly back to her apartment on the ground floor, Unit 1A. As she opened the door, the warmth of the small living room hit her, smelling of lavender and the tomato soup she had made for lunch. This was their sanctuary. She looked at the walls she had painted a soft yellow, the height chart penciled on the doorframe marking every inch Mia had grown since she was a toddler. Losing this job didn't just mean losing a paycheck. It meant homelessness. Rents in the city had doubled in 3 years. With her savings, they would survive maybe 2 weeks in a motel. And then, the car. "Mommy!" A small voice came from the sofa. Mia was there, hugging a worn-out stuffed rabbit, her big brown eyes wide with worry. She had heard the tone of the conversation in the lobby, even if she hadn't understood the words. "Is the bad man going to make us leave?" The question shattered Sarah's heart. She forced a smile, the kind of mask mothers wear when their world is burning down. She walked over and sat beside Mia, smoothing her daughter's dark curls. "No, baby. Nobody is going to make us leave. Mommy just has to sort out some paperwork. It's boring adult stuff." She kissed Mia's forehead, but her mind was racing at 1,000 miles an hour. She had been abandoned by Mia's father before the baby was even born, a man who claimed he wasn't ready for the noise and the responsibility. Since then, Sarah had built walls around her heart higher than the brick structure of the building. She didn't date. She didn't trust. She worked. Work was safe. Men were variables she couldn't control. "I need to go check the boiler pressure, sweetie," Sarah said, standing up because she knew she was about to cry and didn't want Mia to see. "Watch your cartoons. I'll be right back." Sarah fled to the basement. The boiler room was her true office, a cavern of concrete and pipes, humming with the low vibration of the heating system. She closed the heavy metal door, slid down against it until she hit the dusty floor, and finally let the tears come. It was a silent, suffocating cry. She had 48 hours to produce a husband, a certificate, and a skilled maintenance worker. It was impossible. "You know, crying increases the humidity in here. Not good for the rusted valves." The deep, gravelly voice made Sarah jump. She frantically wiped her eyes and looked toward the shadows of the water tanks. Jack was there. He was kneeling beside the main pump, a wrench in his hand, a grease rag hanging from the back pocket of his faded work pants. Jack was a fixture in the building, a freelance handyman and army veteran she hired for the heavy jobs she couldn't physically manage alone. He was 45, with graying temples and eyes that had seen too much of the Desert War, but always softened when they looked at her. "Jack," Sarah gasped, standing up and smoothing her uniform. "I didn't know you were down here. I thought you finished the valve job yesterday." Jack stood up slowly. He was a big man, broad-shouldered and rough around the edges, but he moved with a quiet, deliberate grace. "I did," he said, walking into the light. "But I remembered this old beast makes a rattle when it rains hard. Thought I'd tighten it up before the new owners complain." He paused, looking at her red eyes. He didn't ask if she was okay. He knew she wasn't. "I heard Sterling in the lobby. The ventilation ducts carry sound pretty well." Sarah turned away, embarrassed. She had always maintained a strict professional distance with Jack. Yes, she made him coffee when he worked late. Yes, she sometimes bought an extra ham sandwich and left it for him, knowing he lived in a tiny studio apartment and didn't take great care of himself. And yes, she had noticed the way he looked at her, like she was something precious he wasn't allowed to touch. But she always kept the wall up. Mia came first. "Then you know I'm dead," Sarah whispered, leaning against the workbench. "They want a maintenance couple, a husband. I have 48 hours to find a magical man who has construction certifications, no criminal record, and is willing to marry a broke superintendent just to save her apartment." She let out a dry, hysterical laugh. "I might as well look for a unicorn." Jack wiped his hands on the rag, taking his time. He placed the wrench on the table with a metallic clink. "You don't need a unicorn, Sarah. You just need a guy who knows this building as well as you do. Someone who has the certifications because he used to build forward operating bases in the army. And someone who doesn't have a criminal record." Sarah looked at him, confusion clouding her grief. "Jack, what are you saying?" He took a step closer, staying just outside her personal space, respectful as always. "I'm saying I have a suit. It's a little old from my brother's wedding, but it cleans up nice. I have my contractor's license in the truck. And as for the marriage license," he rubbed the back of his neck, looking slightly uncomfortable for the first time. "City Hall opens at 8:30 in the morning. If we get there early, we can have the paper by 10. The judge usually waives the waiting period if you claim military deployment or urgent family matters. We can make up a reason." The silence in the basement was heavier than the iron tanks. Sarah stared at him, trying to process the insanity of the offer. You want to marry me? Fake marry me?" "Legally marry you," Jack corrected gently. "Sterling isn't stupid. He's going to run a background check. He wants to see a paper. If we do this, we do it right." "Why?" Sarah asked, her voice shaking. "Why would you do that? It's legal madness, Jack. If the company finds out, it's fraud. You could lose your contractor license. Why take that risk for a job?" Jack looked her in the eyes, and for a second, the mask of the casual handyman slipped. Sarah saw a depth of emotion there that terrified and thrilled her. "It's not for the job, Sarah. I've watched you for 3 years. I've watched you carry groceries up 4 flights of stairs when the elevator broke. I've watched you defend Mia from the neighborhood bullies. You are the strongest woman I have ever met." He took a deep breath. "And Mia, she deserves a home. I grew up in the foster system. I know what moving around does to a kid. I won't let that happen to her. Not while I can swing a hammer and sign a paper." Sarah felt the tears coming back, but this time they weren't from fear. "Jack, I can't ask you to do this. I have nothing to give you. I'm a single mom with baggage. I don't date. I don't let men in. If we do this, it's just on paper. I can't offer you a real marriage." Jack smiled, a sad, crooked smile. "I'm not asking for a real marriage, Sarah. I'm asking to be your shield. We sign the paper. I move my tools into the maintenance cage. I sleep on the pull-out couch or stay at my place and just come for the inspections. We act the part for Sterling. Once you get a new contract signed for a year, we figure out a quiet divorce or whatever you want. No pressure. Just let me help." The rational part of Sarah screamed that this was dangerous. But then she thought of the boxes in the lobby. She thought of Mia's school, just 2 blocks away. She thought of the life she had scraped together from nothing. She looked at Jack, his rough hands, his honest face, the way he had always been there, fixing things she couldn't fix, asking for nothing in return. She took a shaky breath. City Hall opens at 8:30. Jack nodded. 8:30 sharp. I'll drive. Sarah wiped her face, a new determination setting in her jaw. Okay, pick me up at 8. But Jack, if you do this, you have to promise me one thing. Mia is fragile. She's afraid of men leaving. If you come into her life as a stepdad, even a fake one, you can't just disappear. You have to treat her right. I would sooner cut off my own hand than hurt that little girl. Jack vowed, the soldier in him surfacing. Then go home and find that suit, Sarah said. We're getting married tomorrow. The wait at City Hall was a test of nerves. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a sickly yellow glow on the linoleum floor. Sarah sat on a plastic chair, clutching her purse with both hands, while Jack sat beside her, looking surprisingly dignified in his brother's old charcoal suit. It was a little tight in the shoulders, a testament to years of lifting timber and steel. But he had polished his boots until they shone. They looked like any other couple waiting for a license, except for the terrifying silence between them. They weren't holding hands. They weren't smiling. They were soldiers preparing for a tactical mission. Sarah's phone vibrated in her purse. Sterling, inspection confirmed for 8 a.m., no delays. Number 42, the clerk called out in a monotone voice. They stood up in unison. At the counter, the process was uncomfortably bureaucratic. Forms were signed, identifications were checked. When the clerk asked, "Do you swear the information provided is true and that this union is entered into of your own free will?" Sarah hesitated for a fraction of a second. She felt the weight of the lie, the legal tremor of what they were doing. Then she felt Jack's presence beside her, solid, unshakable, like the foundation of a house that would never collapse. "I do," Jack answered first, his voice deep and devoid of doubt. "I do," Sarah echoed, sealing their fate. 10 minutes later, they walked out into the crisp morning air as husband and wife. There was no rice thrown, no cheering family, just the traffic noise of the city and a piece of paper that was their only shield against the Apex Corporation. As they got into Jack's truck, the reality hit Sarah. "We have to move you in," she said, staring at the dashboard. "If Sterling comes tomorrow and sees only my toothbrushes in the bathroom, we're dead." Jack nodded, putting the truck in gear. "I've got my bag packed in the back. I don't have much." The move-in was heartbreakingly simple. Jack wasn't a man of possessions. He brought 2 duffel bags, one with clothes, the other with his good tools. When he walked into Sarah's apartment, a space filled with soft cushions, framed photos of Mia, and the scent of vanilla candles, he looked like a bull in a china shop. He stood by the door, afraid to step on the rug with his heavy boots. "You can put your things in the hallway closet," Sarah said, trying to sound casual, though her heart was racing. "And you can sleep on the sofa. It pulls out." "Sofa is fine," Jack said quickly. "I've slept in foxholes. A sofa is a luxury." Then came the hardest part. Mia. Sarah had picked her up from school early, needing everyone home to rehearse. When Mia walked in and saw the big handyman standing in their living room with his bags, she froze. She grabbed onto Sarah's leg, hiding behind her mother's jeans. "Mommy, why is Mr. Jack here?" Sarah knelt down, looking Mia in the eye. This was the most dangerous part of the lie, breaking her daughter's trust. "Baby, remember how I told you we need a special team to help take care of the building? Well, Mr. Jack is going to be staying here for a little while. He's going to be my helper, and he's going to help keep our house safe." Jack crouched down too, keeping his distance, knowing that looming over a child was a mistake. He didn't try to be daddy. He didn't try to be overly friendly. He just pulled a small, shiny object from his pocket. It was a small brass gear he had polished until it looked like gold. "Hey Mia, your mom told me the wheel on your toy wagon was wobbly. I brought this. I think it fits perfectly." Mia peeked out, her curiosity warring with her shyness. She looked at the gear, then at Jack's face. She saw the scars, yes. But she also saw the eyes of a man who was waiting for permission to exist in her world. She reached out and took the gear. "Can you fix it now?" she whispered. "Right now," Jack promised. And for the next hour, while Sarah cooked dinner, she watched the two of them on the living room floor. Jack wasn't just fixing a wagon. He was listening to Mia explain the complex social hierarchy of her stuffed animals. He treated her stories with the same seriousness he treated a blueprints meeting. Sarah felt a strange ache in her chest, a mixture of relief and a longing she had suppressed for years. Dinner was a quiet affair. They ate meatloaf and mashed potatoes, the domesticity of the scene feeling surreal. But the clock was ticking. 8 p.m., 12 hours until Sterling arrived. "We need to study," Jack said, clearing the table. "Sterling is going to separate us. He'll ask me questions about you, and you questions about me. If we slip up on one detail, he'll void the contract." They sat on the sofa, a notepad between them. The lamp cast a warm circle of light, creating an intimacy that felt dangerous. "Okay," Sarah started, pen poised. "What's my favorite color?" "Teal," Jack said instantly. Sarah blinked. "I never told you that." Jack shrugged, looking at his hands. "You wear that teal scarf every winter, and you painted the trim in the laundry room teal last year. It wasn't hard to guess." Sarah felt a flush rise to her cheeks. He had been paying attention. "Okay. What about my coffee order?" "Black, 2 sugars, but only on Mondays. Tuesdays through Fridays you drink tea because coffee makes you jittery by the end of the week." Sarah put the pen down. She was stunned. "How do you know all this, Jack?" He finally looked at her, his gaze intense. "Because I look at you, Sarah. Most people walk by the superintendent. They see a person who takes out the trash. I see you." The air in the room grew heavy, charged with an electricity that had nothing to do with the storm outside. Sarah realized that this man hadn't just agreed to marry her to save a child. He had done it because, in his quiet, broken way, he loved her. And that terrified her more than the eviction. "Your turn," Sarah said, her voice barely a whisper, trying to regain control. "What do I need to know about you?" Jack's face darkened slightly. "I don't sleep well. The nightmares, they come back sometimes. If I wake up shouting, don't touch me. Just call my name from the doorway. I don't want to scare you." "What else?" "I'm allergic to strawberries. My mother's name was Ellen, and..." He hesitated. "And I've never been married before." "Not really. I had a girl before the deployment, but she didn't wait. You're the first woman to wear my name." Sarah looked at the ring on her finger, a simple silver band they had bought at a pawn shop an hour ago. It felt heavy, real. The night dragged on. At 11 p.m., they turned off the lights. Jack set up the sofa bed with military precision. Sarah retreated to her bedroom, leaving the door slightly ajar so she could hear if he needed anything, or if he had a nightmare. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. The apartment felt different. It felt fuller. For 6 years, she had been the sole protector, the only person worrying about the locks and the bills. Tonight, there was a man in the living room who had legally sworn to protect them. Around 2 a.m., a noise woke her. Not a nightmare. A rhythmic clink, clink, clink coming from the kitchen. Sarah got up, grabbed her robe, and tiptoed out. She found Jack under the kitchen sink. His upper body disappeared into the cabinet, a flashlight in his mouth. "Jack!" she whispered. "What are you doing?" He slid out, startled, hitting his head lightly on the pipe. He looked exhausted, grease on his cheek. "Sorry, I couldn't sleep. And this drain has been dripping for 3 months. I hear it every time I come in for coffee. It was driving me crazy knowing I was living here and not fixing it." Sarah looked at the clock. "It's 2 a.m. You have the inspection at 8. "I'll be ready," he said, tightening one last nut. "But if Sterling looks under the sink, I want him to see dry pipes. I want him to see a house that's taken care of." Jack hesitated for half a second. The boiler pressure gauge on the east wing is old. It should hold. But if he asks for live readings, that one's out of my hands. "Let me ask you something honestly. If you were Sarah, alone, terrified, one inspection away from losing your child's home, would you risk everything on a marriage built on trust instead of love? Say yes or no in the comments, and see what choice costs them." Sarah walked over to him. Without thinking, she reached out and wiped the grease spot from his cheek with her thumb. Jack froze at her touch, his eyes locking onto hers. In the quiet of the kitchen, surrounded by the hum of the refrigerator and the smell of old pipes, the line between fake and real blurred completely. "Thank you," she whispered. "Go to sleep, Sarah," he replied, his voice rough with emotion. "I've got the watch." The morning came too fast. At 7:55 a.m., a black sedan pulled up to the curb. Mr. Sterling stepped out, accompanied by 2 other corporate suits. They weren't just here to check a box. They were here to find a flaw. Inside, Jack stood by the door. He had shaved. He wore his work uniform, but it was pressed. He looked like a man who owned the place. He looked at Sarah, who was trembling slightly. "Hey," he said, grabbing her hand. His grip was warm and rough. "We know the truth. We are the team. Just follow my lead." The doorbell rang. It sounded like a gunshot. Sarah took a deep breath, squeezed Jack's hand back, and opened the door. "Good morning, Mr. Sterling," Sarah said, her voice steady. "I'd like you to meet my husband, Jack." Mr. Sterling stepped into the apartment like a health inspector entering a condemned restaurant. He didn't wipe his feet. Behind him, 2 junior executives with tablets began tapping away immediately, scanning the living room. Sterling looked at Jack, then at Sarah, a smirk playing on his lips. "So," Sterling began, his voice dripping with skepticism. "The mysterious fiancé appears. You cut it close, Sarah. Very close." Jack stepped forward, positioning himself slightly in front of Sarah, a subtle shift in gravity that changed the energy of the entire room. "We don't live on corporate time, Mr. Sterling. We live on work time. I'm Jack Miller. Here is the marriage certificate, filed and stamped at City Hall. And here is my general contractor's license, Class A, active and insured." He handed over the documents. Sterling took them, looking annoyed that they actually existed. He scanned the marriage license, noting the date. "Dated yesterday," Sterling scoffed. "How convenient. You marry the day before an inspection? This screams fraud, Mr. Miller. This is a sham marriage to keep a lease." Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. This was it. The moment he would call the police. But Jack didn't flinch. He let out a low, calm laugh. "A sham? Look around you, Sterling." Jack pointed to the walls. "I installed that crown molding 3 years ago. I fixed the wiring in the east wing last winter when your budget cuts left the tenants freezing. I've been taking care of this building, and this woman, a lot longer than a piece of paper says." He took a step closer to the manager, his voice dropping to a dangerous rumble. "We made it official yesterday because we realized we needed to protect our family from corporate bullies who think a single mother can't run a building. Now, the paperwork is legal. The license is valid. Unless you have a specific violation to report, I suggest you stop scanning my wife's family photos." Sterling stiffened. He wasn't used to being spoken to by men in work boots. He walked past Jack, looking for a weakness. He went to the kitchen and opened the cabinet under the sink, the exact spot Jack had fixed at 2 in the morning. Sterling ran his hand over the pipes, hoping for moisture, hoping for a leak that would prove incompetence. But his hand came away bone dry. The copper shone like new. Sterling frowned, clearly disappointed. He walked to the utility closet. The circuit breakers were labeled in neat, clear handwriting, Jack's handwriting. Finally, Sterling looked at the fridge. There, held up by a magnet, was a drawing Mia had made that morning. It was a crude crayon sketch of 3 stick figures, a mom, a little girl, and a big man holding a wrench. Underneath, in shaky letters, it said, "Jack fixed my wagon." Sterling stared at the drawing for a long moment. He was a cold man, but he knew when he was beaten. He turned around, tossing the clipboard onto the table. "Fine," he snapped. "The paperwork checks out. The maintenance is adequate. We will issue a probationary 6-month contract." He narrowed his eyes at Sarah. "But one slip-up, one missed ticket, and this family arrangement ends. We are watching you." "We'll be here," Sarah replied, finding her voice strong and clear. "And the building will be standing. Have a nice day." As the door closed behind Sterling, the silence that followed was deafening. Then, Sarah's legs gave out. She slumped onto the sofa, shaking with the release of adrenaline. Jack was there in an instant, sitting beside her, his hand hovering near her back. "We did it," he whispered, sounding almost surprised. He bought it. Sarah looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. You stood up to him. Nobody has ever fought for me like that, Jack. Jack looked at his hands, the hands that had built houses but never a home for himself. I didn't have to fight hard, Sarah. Everything I said was true. I've been watching out for you, and I'm not going anywhere. The fake marriage was supposed to end there. They were supposed to sleep in separate rooms until the lease was safe. But as they sat there, the distance between them vanished. The contract was a lie, but the feeling in that room was the truest thing either of them had ever known. Sarah reached out and took his hand. Stay, she said. Not for the contract. Stay for us. Jack squeezed her hand back, a smile breaking through his stoic face. I'm already home. If you could see them 3 years later, you wouldn't recognize the people they once were. On a quiet suburban street, a white pickup truck pulls into a modest driveway. The house isn't big. It isn't perfect. But it's solid. Fresh paint, a strong roof, and a porch that looks like it was built to last. Jack steps out of the truck just as the front door flies open. Dad! Mia, taller now, louder, fearless, runs straight into his arms. Jack catches her without effort, lifting her like he's done 1,000 times before. He didn't earn that title with paperwork. He earned it with scraped knees, late-night nightmares, and promises he never broke. Sarah watches from the porch, holding a small set of keys in her hand. Their keys. No superintendent's unit. No corporate inspections. Just a home that belongs to them. Jack walks up beside her, wraps an arm around her shoulders, and looks at the house. 3 years ago, Sarah says quietly, I thought my life was over. Jack smiles. It was just starting. As they walk inside together, the camera lingers on the mailbox at the edge of the driveway. It doesn't have a unit number anymore. It just says, The Millers. Sometimes the lowest moment of your life isn't the end of your story. It's the foundation of the one you were meant to build. If this story meant something to you, share it with someone who stood by you when life got hard. And remember, you're never as alone as you think.